Alrighty, we're right on the hour, so I'll go ahead and get started with today's session, reverse prospecting in your CRM. So my goal is for you to be able to follow along. So I have a bad habit of going quickly, so I'll try to go slowly as I walk through Follow Up Boss. So let me go ahead and share my screen. Bear with me as I do so. Okay, so I should be sharing Follow Up Boss. I'm going to go ahead and go into blur mode. So what that means just for you, when you see my screen share is phone numbers will be blurred whenever you view my screen share. So we'll source names and some other information. That's just for privacy reasons as you're looking at my Follow Up Boss account. So when I'm talking about reverse prospecting, in this case, I'm simply referring to finding buyers at the right time and finding the right buyers when you need to. And if we have time, we'll also go into finding sellers, but it will be a lot of information packed into this session. So if we run out of time, then we can do a separate session on finding sellers. So if you ever speak to a buyer who tells you their specific wants and needs, and you need to be able to make that searchable. As you know and I know, that's great to create a call note in their profile, but you also want to make that searchable so that you can, quote, make your CRM a reverse prospecting database. Take advantage of that data you just collected from that person. So I'm going to create a dummy person and show you what I mean. So in Follow Up Boss, what I just did there, in case you're not familiar with it, in the top right corner, I just selected the circular blue button in the top right corner where the person icon is, where you see my cursor is, and the new person. And I'm just creating a dummy lead here. And I'll add a person. So you can see here that the source name is hidden. That's just the part of blur mode of Follow Up Boss. Now, part of the best practice that I follow for Follow Up Boss is, or for any CRM, is I tag the lead based on the type of lead they are. So in this case, in this example I'm sharing, this is a buyer lead I'm talking to. So I'm going to go ahead and tag them as a buyer. That way they are searchable as a buyer. And I'm just going to put in a fake phone number here and put in a fake log call. I'm in the Dallas-Fort Worth area in Texas, so I'm just going to pretend, well, let's just say it's like for me whenever I was, or for my parents, wants a home in Flower Mound or Lantana up to 425,000. Wants a smaller home with 3 to 4 bedrooms, 1 story. What else can you say? Ensuring no previous foundation work and roof and major appliances don't need repair or replacement. Importance is close to family, but the 1 story, 3 to 4 bedrooms are the most important, and the price. But as you know, like, you can search call notes here. Like I could search the words Flower Mound and find that call. Whoop. But I don't know why it's a little bit wonky there. That's another weird thing. But if I wanted to pull up an easy list of people that, let's say I have a listing coming up for sale that I want to promote to people that were interested in Flower Mound or interested in Lantana or nearby area, I can't easily do that by searching call notes. So instead, I just pull up that dummy lead I just created. Instead, sure, still put in that call note, which if you use the dialer and you enable the AI call transcription, then the AI will most likely log that information for you. But then use the tags. The tags are what's going to be searchable. So tag is buyer to indicate that they are buyer lead. That's very important so that you can find your buyers. And then I'm going to add the tag for something like want or once, flower mound, want lantana, want one story, and those were, oh, and then want for the price. Up to you on how you want to label price. I'll say 400, something like that. Then what you can do when you're trying to market a listing, or if you're trying to sell a listing that you or your team has, you can easily find those buyers. Now, when you first start off, you're obviously not going to have a lot of people to search. Like if I were just starting today, brand new, I'm only going to have that one person. So if I had a listing in Southlake, I'm obviously not going to find someone tag with want Southlake, unless you used some sort of IDX that integrated with Follow Up Boss that auto tagged people. Then you could obviously search that way as well. But if you're starting from day one, it's going to take a little while before you start to have a list. But the nice thing is as you start to have conversations with leads, and as you and I know, leads will put their home buying process on hold or put it on the back burner. But you can use these listings to spark interest again and market to these people that you would consider warmer leads than just anybody looking on your website, anybody just being automatically tagged from your IDX provider, because these are people you actually had conversations with and you took the time to tag them properly to say this is their want for city, this is their want for amenities. So whenever it comes time, I had mentioned reverse prospecting, not only for finding buyers to market to, but also use this as a way to potentially win a listing if you're going on a listing appointment. So what do I mean by that? Before you even take a listing, let's say you're going on a listing appointment, you want to do everything you can to impress the homeowner and potentially win the listing. Don't assume that you're going to win the listing whenever you're going on the listing appointment. So before you go on the listing appointment, say a day before or 2 days before, search out your database and send an email and do reverse prospecting on your database. So what do you do in that case? So you'll go to the people screen in Follow Boss and you'll search by tag. So you'll create 2 different filters. The first filter is tag include buyer. This is to ensure, oops, there it goes. This is to ensure you're only searching people that are labeled as a buyer. And then you want to create a second filter for the ones that people wanted. So I'm going to create a second tag. Now you'll notice here that you can either do tag include any or tag include all. I strongly recommend doing tag include any, because if I were to do all, you're most likely not going to find anybody who meets all of the features of this listing. So that would be a very picky person. Plus, the listing that you're going to may not check the box, every box of someone's wants, but it could potentially work for them anyway. So I'm a very good example of that. I thought that I needed a home that matched every box of being so many minutes away from my daughter's school, but it was so many square feet and it was no older than 2010 and it was on this amount of land. But my realtor was smart and she widened the search a little bit. She said, you aren't really liking what you're seeing. Let's just expand. Let's just see what else is out there. just to give you an idea. Not to say that you'll like anything that you see because it'll be a little bit further away from what you like, or it'll be a little bit older, but just so that you can see and get an idea of what's out there. I like how she used that little tactic there. And so she did that. And we ended up, it was at the end of the day of our showings for the day. And I almost did not want to see the house I currently live in because it was 5 to 10 minutes further away than I originally put our want or need list to be. And the pictures looked awful. But I said, you know what? It's on half an acre, and that is a unicorn in Flower Mound. It is a bit further away. It is a bit more expensive, but it's been on the market for a few weeks now. That means the sellers will most likely be willing to come down on the price, which is nice. You don't find this type of lot in Flower Mound. And then this neighborhood that she said the last home that had sold in this neighborhood was over, I don't know, 5 years ago. So she said, this just doesn't happen. So I said, okay, fine. The pictures look terrible, but the lot size is nice. We'll just see. Long story short, we ended up buying this home. So that to say, don't exclude or require that they meet all of these tags because you never know. Anyway, so I would say, oh, I have a new listing coming up. So let me search for anyone who is tagged want Lantana. You can also expand it to just anyone tagged Lantana if you have that auto tag feature enabled with your IDX searching feature enabled. And if you don't know what I mean by that, not to get sidetracked, just want to make sure that you're following what I'm saying. I believe it's under admin tags. It's this turn on auto tagging new leads feature here. So there are different IDX providers, home search providers that have direct integrations with Follow Up Boss. What I mean by direct integration, that means that Follow Up Boss is able to directly see when one of the leads that's in Follow Up Boss goes back to your home search website and looks at properties for sale. Follow Up Boss, when you turn on the tagging feature, you can say, anytime someone looks at a property on my website, yes, I want you to automatically tag their zip code and their city if you turn on that auto tagging feature. If you're curious as to what technologies or IDX platforms we at Coaching Collective recommend, it depends on what problem you're trying to solve. If you're looking for a standalone, you'll hear Chase Whitney recommend Real Scout often. If you're looking for an IDX that is a part of something, we recommend looking into Agent Fire and Agent Fire's IDX, or you can also look into Ylopo and Ylopo's IDX. All three of those have a direct integration with Follow Up Boss, and all three of those would have that auto tagging feature enabled. And as people are looking at properties online, they'll get auto tagged, and then you can include them. So you can include the people that you've manually tagged as well as people that get automatically tagged. So let's say you have a property that's coming on the market that is in Lantana, and that is around, well, we can say like it's 450 or something. Then you can say, okay, well, they wanted up to 400,000, but let's go ahead and advertise it because it's slightly above. Again, for us, we purchased more than slightly above our budget because it was sort of our dream home. You can use this as a reverse prospecting database to find the buyers to potentially sell the listing, but also to win the listing appointment. So if you're going on a listing appointment and you haven't guaranteed and signed the listing agreement, you can use this as a way to impress the seller. So what I mean by that is after you've found a list of buyers that potentially match with this property, whether it's the people that you've manually tagged or people that have been automatically tagged with the city or the zip code or the postal code or the square footage or any other amenities that you tag people with, then you'll email them and batch email them with something like this. And I was trying so hard to find it. I cannot find the original exact script, but I got this idea from Jimmy Mackin. Jimmy Mackin is an excellent copywriter, and he's where I get a lot of inspiration from for our own copywriting here at with Key Technology. If you're a Key Technology client, you would say something like, I'm about to meet a potential seller. And then you can say something like, hi. And recently, instead of using high contact first name, I'm using high contact and relationship first name. And I include all email addresses. So when you include all email addresses, you're sending this email to every email address that's in a contact's profile. So if you have, let's take, for example, my parents, if you have my mom's email address and my dad's email address in their profile, and you have, let's go back to the dummy lead. Let's say my mom's name, and then you add my dad here, and then you put my mom's email and my dad's email. Then when you send the batch email and you include all email addresses, it's going to email both of them. But then when you use this merge field for high contact and relationship first name, what this is going to change to, if there is a relationship name, if not, then it's just going to say hi Irma. But since there is, it's going to say hi Irma and Peter. So I like using that. Hi Irma and Peter. I'm about to go on an appointment with a homeowner who is considering selling their property. A few details about the property or home, depending on what you want to say. And then you can list out a couple things. It is 1 story. It is 1,800 square feet. It backs to a green space. It is in Lantana. New roof and HVAC. And any other things. And then you can say, should I contact you if they decide to list their house for sale? Just reply back, yes. And then after you send this email 1 or 2 days before the appointment, the goal is to get some responses, which you can then, of course, use to start conversations with potential buyers. Then when you go on the listing appointment, you can say, Mr. Buyer, Mr. Seller, Mrs. Seller, we've already, one thing that we do that makes us stand out is we heavily market your property. In fact, we've already started marketing your property. We have reached out to our database of buyers who have been waiting for a home like yours that we've talked to in the past and emailed them a few details that about your property and asked these buyers that if you were to consider and decide to list your house, would they be interested in learning more? And then you could show them your email inbox. You don't have to open up the actual replies, but just show your email inbox showing how many responses you got, whether it's 2 or 3 or 5 or 10, showing the responses, and that will blow them away. But then, of course, you can also use that reverse prospecting database as a way for it to give you a purpose and a reason to call these leads in your database. You're always, a common question we get asked is, when you're prompted to call leads either through a task or more preferably, we recommend through a smart list, oftentimes you can come up with a blank. You don't really know the purpose behind a call. There's only so many different ways you can avoid saying the words follow up of, hi, Irma, we spoke last month about the importance for you to purchase a home before the end of the year. Would you say that's important to you still? There's only so many ways you can ask a follow-up question like that. But now you can say, hi, Irma, I am about to meet a potential seller, or hi, Irma, we just listed a property for sale in Lantana, and I just thought of you. And you have a reason and a purpose to call them. So more than just email, you call them proactively, and that's really where the magic happens, is the conversations you'll have over phone call, plus using the email and text messages to supplement. Now let's switch gears, because we have time, to how to create a reverse prospecting list for finding sellers. Let's say you have buyers that cannot find the right home that matches their needs. This is where you can create a list of homeowners that you're trying to nurture to get them to want to sell their house. You can do the same thing. You would create a dummy lead and tag them as a seller. Or if they're both a buyer and a seller, so in case they're just a seller, you would tag them as just a seller. But if they're buyer and seller, you would tag them as buyer/seller instead of just buyer. It's glitching out on me for some reason. There it goes. And same thing, you would create the note about their property. But it's up to you on how you want to approach this, and whether or not you have a team, and whether or not you want to share confidential information about the conversation you had. If you're fine with just using this existing lead and putting in information about the property for the rest of your team members to see, you certainly can. But if you have a team and you don't want to share confidential call notes about the conversations you have had with the homeowner, then perhaps you consider creating a separate profile just for the property information for someone who may consider selling. It's up to you on whether or not you want to do that. But if you're a solo agent or you're a small team and you're okay with sharing and letting other team members see the notes, then you can certainly keep it that way. So for simplicity's sake and for time's sake, I'm just going to use this existing profile. So we'll tag them as buyer and seller. Considering selling their home in Hazlet. It's a 3-bedroom, 2-bath, 1-story, built in 2020. And then you would add a tag. Just have some sort of SOP for how you label your tags so you know how to search for them. Whether it's like property, colon, or seller, colon, or whatever it is. Maybe I'll do property info, 1-story, and then property info, Hazlet, and then property info. Let's say they want to list at 300. And then let's say we did Hazlet, 1-story, 3-bedroom, 2-bathroom. And then just like you did for the buyers, if you have buyers that are looking for a specific home that they can't find one that's currently listed, you would search for tag include any. You can do tag include buyer or buyer slash, include buyer/seller, or just seller. And then tag include property info. So if someone says, I'm looking for a home in Hazlet, that's one story. Include any. Then you now have a reason to, again, batch email, call. You have a reason and a purpose to call, and you're not the realtor that I don't enjoy speaking to that pretends to have a buyer. You actually do have a buyer who's looking for a home like theirs. You actually do have a buyer who is looking for a home like theirs. You're not just pretending to have a buyer. So the alternative, since we have a couple minutes, is if you don't want, let's say you have a team and you don't want your buyer agents to see conversations with the seller. Maybe you have conversations about what they want to list for, and you don't want to see your buyer agents and their buyer clients to see the list price or like the lowest they would take, for example, or the reason they're selling. Then what you can do is create a brand new person. And that brand new person, the name could just be not the name of the person, but the name would be the property. So the property for my parents' house, which is thankfully under contract, is 333 Falling Star Drive. And you can either leave it in the lead stage or the hot, warm, or cold stage or whatever it is you'd like. And then you can tag it as a seller. I have so many tags here. It might take me a while to find just the seller tag. There it is. And then same thing, property info, Hazlet, 3-bedroom, 1-story, that. And then in this case, you would just put in the regular note information about the property. Homeowner is considering selling in 2024 with all the details, Hazlet, 1-story, and so on. And then if you'd like, contact Sunny Darden for more info, something like that. And then Sunny can reach out to the homeowner if Sunny is the direct contact for the homeowner, since you may be split between buyer agents and seller agents. So that's a way you can find and use this data to your advantage, because the data is only searchable and usable if you input it in a way that is searchable and usable. And the way I've found that works best is through tags, and use the notes, the call notes and the regular notes to have an easier to read section, but then use the tags to be searchable. Just be mindful to have a standard naming structure. Standard naming structure for labeling your buyers and sellers, a standard naming structure for labeling the buyers once, and a standard naming structure for labeling the properties information in the tags. And then if needed, create a separate lead profile just for the property. And if you need this, property to be viewed through the whole team, like unless you give your whole team admin access, then the rest of your team members are not going to be able to see this property. Then you would create a pond at that point. So we have like an off-market property pond, and you would add whoever needs access to that pond within your team to see. We call it off-market, but you can call it whatever you would like, to see any properties that are not currently on the market, but the seller would consider selling. You would designate a pond lead, designate who else would need access, most likely your buyer agents, access to that list. And then when you create that separate contact record in Follow Up Boss, instead of having it assigned to one specific agent, you can have it assigned to a pond. In this case, the pond being that off-market property pond. That way, now everyone who is in that pond can see this contact in Follow Boss. So in that case, I gave access to that pond to Rebecca, me, Chris, and GP. But if in the future I add another buyer agent, then I can just quickly add Atlanta. If she becomes a buyer agent, I can quickly give Atlanta access to all of the leads that are in that pond as well. So I hope y'all found that helpful. And as always, feel free to reach out to us if you have any questions at all.